All right, we're back. Public relations, advertising, brand management, discussion questions. Week 2, Dr. G, right here, taking care of you, giving you some spirited responses, and communicating. We're communicating with one another asynchronously. You can be couch surfing. You can have, this is a perfect opportunity to not work on your eye contact, right? Because there's no accountability there. And you can be, updating your stock portfolio, buying some radio ads perhaps, as you listen to these lecture commentaries based on your reaction response to our course readings. So let's take a couple of questions from Tyler. I might have some counter questions on the back end of this. Starting with week 2, I'm not sure which reading, not sure which author we're referring to here. But let me just start reading them. What do you think the future of radio advertising looks like? And there's a follow-up question, but I guess I would say if I knew what the future of radio advertising looked like, I would be investing in that future right now, right? I would be hustling to create yet another revenue stream with emphasis on radio advertising. The thing about technology is, unless you're in the thick of it, you can't always predict the exact trends that will emerge. But what you can do is learn to, or maybe you can't prognosticate, right? You can't prophesy what new technologies may become what we call paradigm shifts in the market and accepted socially and culturally. But you can predict, right? And you can predict by studying past trends. You can predict by studying present data, and through experience, right? Trial and error, you can learn to make accurate predictions. And that's what when a person, this is a great opportunity to explore a little case study here. Let's say you're a small business operator. Let's say you want to, since this week our theme was radio, you want to advertise on radio. You go to the station, right? There will be station reps, sales reps within the station. Their specialization is the advertising department. They're not just there to sell you ads. They're there to understand data and help pick a plan that's accurate, that's going to get your message to the best possible demographic of listener, right? And you don't know this going in. You need their expertise. It's a relationship that needs to have integrity. It needs to have this ethical component, because if you get ripped off, you won't be back buying more ad space, right? But their job is to understand the market, understand these waves, and they're taking different kinds of data, right? Qualitative and quantitative data, and they're interpreting it. And they're looking at past and present trends, and they're trying to predict future occurrences, right? And so this is definition of what we call an inexact science, but it's informed, right? And there is an intuitive component as well, there are X factors out there that can stall a campaign, that can get in your way. And companies come and go all the time as a result. With more and more people playing their own music from their phones, playing music from their phones, it could be their own music if they're a musician. Do you think radio advertising is still as effective? All right, I'm going to emphasize that word again. It may not be as effective. Yeah, I think this is an opinion question. It may not be as effective. We could break that down for several reasons. Audience fragmentation, convergence culture, right? Competition, many mass mediums sending off all kinds of messages. We're just not sitting around listening to radio anymore, right? If video killed the radio star, social media killed video, except video is still integrated, right? It's digital video, and we're taking it, we're sharing it, we're watching it, we're scrolling it, and all this kind of stuff. So, and then we're mixing it, right? We're remixing it. we're remixing music with social media. What is the right now? We're seeing all these viral web videos coming through TikTok, all right? And these TikTok videos, a lot of them are music based in some way. Well, they're kind of doing some advertising business if we stop and think about it. They're using clips from strategic little songs, maybe old, maybe new, whatever the wave is at the moment. And then people are taking that, they're sort of reappropriating it, they're putting little things into it, and it's a game. It's a remixing game. Everyone, the world's a stage. All the world's a stage is Shakespeare, possibly plagiarized. But we're all, it's not just about being a performer. We're all producers. We're all content creators. But we want to get you through that threshold of thinking like a professional content creator, of thinking like a professional idea generator, of executing, right? And meeting deadlines and all of these things. And these conversations are part of it. If we're not thinking about these things, if we're not teasing out this content, what are we doing, right? Like, what are you doing? Why are you in school? And I just, I'm buying it. I'm over the moon for this process, regardless of new question. All right, I can see where I'm taking this. Hitting the pause button there. When choosing a radio advertising method, how do you pick which one to do? Is it only based off of the product or off of the audience? And the answer is both. And of course, I would immediately look back to some of the responses I just gave. I don't want to go back over all of that, but yeah, you have to understand demographics. This is why it doesn't pay to, some people are like, I just need a way to save money with my advertising, and so I'm going to make all the decisions myself. Well, sometimes you need experts to weigh in, right? And that's salespeople. They can be hard to deal with, right? And they're always so confident, and part of that's performance and performative. But the good ones understand data and information, and they can help you make a plan that's going to work, even if it seems like it's going to cost you more than if you made all those decisions independently. Yeah, that's what I commented on. I'm going to skip a couple other questions. Folks, the revision process, right? One of the best recommendations I can give us. Get done, you draft those questions out. Love it. We're turning out a lot some weeks, and that's okay. That's good for us. A great way to proof, if you're not an experienced proofreader, go back, read your questions out loud once to yourself. And so if it's flowing smooth, you're likely to be in good shape. Sometimes it's an easy way to catch some things we can just add tweaks to, right? So that we're communicating clearly and effectively. Looks like I printed this off without the name. Possibly from Britain, but I hate to give false credit here. But I'm just going to jump to the questions, and you can you tweet at me if I can add a correction or something like that. From the Integrated Marketing, Chapter 6, on page 96, Blakeman writes, quote, "A headline needs to seduce. It should create enough interest to make the target stay with the ad instead of turning or closing the page," end quote. Are there headlines that have caught your eye? Explain the impact it played in your interest or disinterest in the ad. I should have reread that again so I could skip it. No, I'm kidding. I only say that because I didn't. Thousands of ads catch my eye, right? Advertising. Let me put it this way: advertising has been catching my gaze, hailing, and to use these words, seducing me. My whole life, right? I've grown up in and around mass media, and so I kind of put it into thresholds, right? When you're younger, this is why we have these conversations about children and media effects and media addiction, is because it's a real issue. Children are far more easily just drawn into media, and they can't tell the difference between they can't discern information accurately, consistently. And so when you're young, every advertisement can work to a certain degree. And then I think, the older you get, you kind of start moving toward those ages of joining labor force, right? And you want to become it's almost like a propaganda ad, those old military ads. I want to become, a consumer. I want to have my disposable income so I can buy the things that I'm interested in, that interest me. And there's nothing wrong with that to a healthy degree. And then maybe you enter other phases where you can start to step outside of it. You consume media, but you can step outside of it, start to be more critical, start to understand how these messages impact you. And that brings me to a recommended reading. All right. So there's a book I was introduced to many years ago, and it was written many years before that. And I consider it a bona fide classic and one of the underrepresented texts in the intellectual circles. That's Judith Williamson's Decoding Advertisements, Ideology and Meaning in Advertising. And just as the ads on the front suggest, those are real ads, by the way. This is a vintage, right? This is a vintage model, and oh my goodness, have I worked this book over a few times? It's just an excellent read. A thin book, but not thin on ideas and not thin on analytic rigor. Just woof. Right, all the notes. Certainly, this one's caught my eye, but it also taught me a lot along the way about the power of advertising. And Williamson studied under, if I'm recalling accurately, Claude Levi-Strauss or Levi Strauss, famous structuralist, sort of cultural theorist, and we engage some of those theories and methods in various courses in the curriculum. Structuralism, it has some nice crossover with critical theory, as well as rhetoric and rhetorical criticism in certain ways, semiotics, the study of signs and symbols. And so, that's a book that can definitely lend itself to helping us understand advertising. And in fact, without question, Williamson's work, as well as those that came before her, impact Arthur Asa Berger. He's doing some this cross combination of these disciplines that I just mentioned, along with updated use of media studies as a field to comment on that. So that'd be my response. Let me see if I missed anything there. No. Okay. Next question. On page 97, Blakeman writes, quote, "Selecting the right words is important as the tone of voice and style the headline uses to express the strategy," end quote. What words are more impactful toward a positive or negative ad? And I would say it's less about a specific word combination, although there are key buzzwords. Just like if you think about products and they used to put a little stamp with the word new on it, right? New and improved. And this was a sales tactic. This was just marketing 101, right? Advertising strategy. And it's effective. It is effective as any word ever in the history of advertising. And so it's trial and error. There's a trial and error process. There's no right formula, although there are clearly proven, maybe words and phrases, some tactics, but that doesn't mean the same tactic works every time, right? Because it's all about also considering what is the audience, what is the product, is the product verifiable, right? Is the product of a true value or not? But also in terms of what words are most impactful toward a positive or negative ad, I don't know if there is such a thing as the right words, but there is such a thing as bad grammar. And so, yet again, another reason why we seemingly harp on style or proofreading and this and that, utilizing the writing center and so on. We're just pointing back to some of these fundamentals, right? Because so many of you all would be eligible to potentially apply, if not get hired on, to work as a technical writer. And you need to have efficiency as a writer, but writing is but one means, one method of communicating, just like we're working on our digital communication skills, our verbal communication skills, our non-verbal communication skills, all right? So something to think about there. And I'm gonna speed to the end here, officially in overtime on segment 3. Page 181, Blakeman writes, quote, "Nobody listens to the radio anymore. It has been relegated to background noise that keeps us company while we work, drive, shop, or get our teeth cleaned," end quote. Agreed. Why do you agree or disagree with this? Why? Well, let me put it this way. Let me pose it this way for us. Hearing versus listening. Okay? This is a fundamental. We grow up hearing this from our from our grade school teachers all the way up to maybe, our parents, all grandparents, right? We hear all of this radio noise all the time. And you can hear it and recognize it. It doesn't mean you're listening to it. Listening is intentional. Listening is an active exercise. So one of our educational outcomes in the Comm Media and Ethics program, right? This is a Zach Morris timeout. One of our educational outcomes is to, let me find it here, shift from passive modes of leisurely media consumption, and be more akin to hearing, shift from passive modes of leisurely media consumption to active modes of critical reasoning, right? If you're truly listening to something, that means you're thinking about it, you're processing it. So you're going to a deeper level with it. You're allowing it to potentially resonate with you in some way. That's the difference between when somebody, they say significant other or parent, right, or child, maybe. You have to communicate, relay information. Maybe it involves like a chore, or something needs to be picked up, or something needs to be dropped off, or some bill needs to get paid. And you hear them, you hear that information, but if you're not listening intentionally, that information's gone later when you need it. It's like, what was I going to do again? What was the thing, and then what time and where? So wow, what an easy but important value, hearing versus listening. And we've got to exercise. If we're going to be communication masters and execute as leaders, we need to be able to shift that gear on command and listen with intent. All right, final question. Why is radio becoming a less effective source of advertisement? We could say the same thing regarding traditional television, right? And I think that's just a closing question, because the summation of this week 2 discussion, you're receiving asynchronously, kind of tackles that in a nutshell, right? I feel like it's a question we've answered through today's message, right? That different mediums can become less important and less culturally significant over time. But one of the unique ages and eras we live in now is that the digital age opens up what Henry Jenkins theorized as, his term, convergence culture, right? This time and space where these mass mediums can cross over. And the internet allows us to blur those boundaries, or to cross over those boundaries. And so that gives us a kind of, open-ended possibility to suggest perhaps radio does have a future. And it's because it becomes more symbiotic with these other mass mediums, and less about operating distinctly as its own individual medium. Not that it can't do that. These have been some excellent questions. So glad to be able to carve out time to engage you all. Hope you're taking it in, processing it. Hopefully you're listening to some of this, not just hearing it, and I look forward to more. Thank you.